And hello and good evening. In this lesson, we're going to be covering slicing, as you can tell by the massive font. Now, a long story short, a slice is part of an ordered sequence. So, what I'm going to show you here will work on strings, lists, tuples, and indeed other ordered sequences, but those are the three main ones we've seen in the course thus far. Now, if you understand the range function, which I did a video on a few lessons back, you're pretty much most of the way towards understanding slicing, I think, because with slicing, as with ranges, we can have a start point, which is inclusive, a non-inclusive endpoint, and also a step. So you might want to brush up on ranges in order to make this lesson more comprehensible. Like I say, I did a lesson on ranges, it's just a few videos back. Right, but let's get cracking with slices. So let's get something to work with. I'm going to create a list of the numbers from 1 to 100. Now it could just as easily be a tuple, it does not matter for the purposes of this lesson. Now I can't remember if I've showed you the built-in list function here, but that's what I'm using here to create this list, and we're passing the range 1, 101 as an argument to that function, and you see that gives us all of the integers from 1 to 100. So let's get slicing. So if we want to grab the first 10 numbers, then we use the square brackets just like we do with grabbing a single item, and we can pass a start point. So 0, remember that's the index, so index 0 is obviously the first item, and the end point is index 10, which again, drive this point home, is non-inclusive. So that's going to give us the numbers from 1 to 10, as you can see there. Now, if you're going from the beginning, then you don't actually need to give the first argument. You can leave that out and Python will assume you're going from the start. And you can see there that that gives us exactly the same 10 numbers. If we wanted to grab the second set of 10 numbers, so from 11 through to 20, then we could do that. Excellent. Now, you can also give negative numbers. As we've shown previously, the end of the sequence, the last item, has an index of -1, and you can count backwards from there. So if we want to grab the last 10, then we'd give -10 as the start point. So counting backwards, we've got -1, -2, -3, and so on until we get to -10, which is the number 91. Now, in this case, we can't really give an end argument because we want to just go to the end of the list. If we give -1 as the end argument, then that's not going to give us the number 100. So we want to leave out the second argument there. And you see that gives us 91 through to 100. Now, if you are grabbing a slice working from the end of the list, you can always give or get the equivalent slice counting from the beginning of the list. So in this case, it would be starting at 90 and going to the end like that. Wonderful. Right, so let's show you the step argument as well. So if we want to grab all of the even numbers, we'd start at index of 1, which is the number 2. That's obviously the first even number in the list. Now, the endpoint here is optional. We could give 101 as the endpoint, or we could just leave it out. The key thing is we need to give the step of 2 for that to work. If you are going to miss out the second argument, so you'll have 2 colons in a row, which looks a bit strange, but works absolutely fine there. So similarly, if we wanted the odd numbers, we could actually miss out both of the first 2 arguments and just give the step of 2. And one more with these numbers. If we want the 5 times table, we start at index 4, which is the number 5, and obviously the step would be 5. There we go. Right, so I hope that shows you how slices work here. Don't worry if you have to kind of sit down and work these things out. I've had quite a bit of practice and it still takes me a few seconds normally at least to exactly work out what slice I want, and it's not the end of the world if you get it wrong the first couple of times. You can kind of use trial and error to get exactly what you want there. So I'll show you a couple of things with strings, a couple of slicing tricks if you like. So first of all, now I chose this string because it kind of works forwards and backwards. If you want to reverse a sequence, then if you pass in colon, colon, -1, and that gives us Lager Yob, which is great. Now another trick you can use is if you just pass in colon, colon, like that, that's going to give you a copy of whatever sequence. So if we wanted a copy, we could call it nums2 and set that to a copy of nums. Now that's different from doing this, because if you just do nums2 equals nums, effectively there is only one list because they both reference the same item in memory, so you won't be able to change nums2 without also changing nums. But if you do the copy like this, then the 2 lists will be independent of each other. I did refer to that, I can't remember if it was the previous video or the one before, but don't worry too much about that, that's slightly advanced. Any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Right, so that's slicing for you. I hope that wasn't too much of a headache. Like I say, don't worry too much if you need to sit down and scratch your head and work things out. As I say, that's what I tend to do as well. Right, super. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye bye now.